Well, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you guys might be. Depending on your time zone, it is the live episode of the QA. My name is Dave from Guns and Tactics. I do appreciate you guys spending a few minutes or maybe close to an hour of your day with me on this podcast that we do at the end of every month. This is the live QA, so for those of you guys that are new or are stumbling across this wherever you might be listening, this is generally recorded as a live show. So yes, there might be some bloopers, there might be some pauses or anything like that, but we try to do our best to answer your questions. If you can't make the live show, the best way to get your question on the show is to email us. Now, if you're watching us on YouTube or whatever, we have that email address shown on the screen. However, if you're listening, it is the QA. So the QA at gunsandtactics.com. The QA at gunsandtactics.com. You can email us. We get your questions on the show. Otherwise, obviously, with a live show like this, we answer a lot of comments and questions, and we kind of just hang out and have a good time. I was chuckling when the pre-roll music was playing because D-Tom American said that was the most serious face I'd see Dave with. When I was doing like the setup ahead of the show, kind of behind the scenes, I was hopefully trying to add a different, we call it a scene in this app, which is like has all the looks and all that. And I didn't realize the camera went live because I was like really focused on trying to add a graphic. Usually I thought it was just my pre-roll of the coming soon thing. So that gave me a chuckle because all of a sudden I look and it is what it is. So, but anyways, guys, I'm happy to be here. It is the end of the month. It's been a fast March. I know a lot of people are into March Madness, which is a trademark term. I'm not acknowledging any promotion or anything like that in case I'm ever cool enough to get on the radar of the NCAA. But that's cool. I'm not super into sports. I know there's a lot of people that are, and that's cool. So I know a lot of people really enjoy this time of year because of that. So that is awesome. And if that's what you're into, cool. It's been a busy month for me otherwise with work stuff and thankfully no travel. I was supposed to travel and that actually ended up getting canceled. So it was nice to kind of hang out at home. And then now here I am back at it trying to make some content. So I do have a video coming out on the channel. It'll come out probably this afternoon, and it's part of the Off the Range series. As you guys have known, we talked about it in last month's podcast or episode that I'm going to start a separate off-road channel. So that channel is live. It has one video on it. It's called Gear and Tread. I should have put a graphic. I'll hopefully put a link in the description. But if you search on YouTube for Gear and Tread, I have one video up there so far, but I'm going to probably put most of the off-road and most of the off-the-range stuff eventually to that channel, but I have to, kind of build it up a little bit so it actually gets noticed. But one of the off-the-range videos is going to come out this afternoon, and it's a review on these guys, which these are the Cardo. There we go. Stay there. The Cardo Edge phone. And I really think this product is cool. And you can watch about it in a little bit here. I'll post it this afternoon. But I think there's a lot of potential where this company might start to, look at expanding their offerings too. So I'm definitely really interested in seeing what the future of the Cardo is. And if you have questions about it, I know it's kind of more off-road related, but really cool product. I have a link and a code and all that other stuff. They were really cool to work with. So I'll have all that, but just a little preview of what's coming this afternoon is my review of the Cardo Edge phones, which again is more of that off the range, off-road type stuff. But, they want to, have the video on the main channel, which is super cool that they want to work with us that way too, because other companies that I've worked with or tried to work with in the off-road space, it's not that they're anti-gun. It's just that they don't want to align with a gun channel. They just want to stay in their lane, which I get at the same time. Sometimes it's disappointing to hear and I take it too personal, but I do understand some of it is just strictly business as well. So that's how it goes, is what it is, but more on these later if you have any questions. Before we get started, I did kind of rearrange the studio a little bit. This is kind of what I'm settling on. I think this will be the look for the near future. Most of the reviews, either on here or on Gear and Tread, are going to have this look, have the shop look, toolbox, the machine, all that other stuff. I had to rearrange because if you watch the Gear and Tread video, which I know not very many people have, but I did sell my old Range Mobile, the Pioneer, which a lot of you guys did watch that, which was really cool on this channel. Super awesome project. I love that machine. Found a great home for it. I know that the new owner is really going to enjoy it, take good care of it, which is kind of cool. And I know it's just stuff. I shouldn't be attached to it, but I really did like that machine. A lot of really cool memories. Firearms related or not, it was still a great part a chapter of my life to spend time with my kids and go on some adventures with. Well, anyways, I got a new machine, and in order for me to fit everything in, because I like to keep stuff in a garage, I had to rearrange because the studio is in my shop garage. So I had to kind of rearrange to make room because the new machine is bigger than the old one. And I honestly, I'm looking at it. I think it looks kind of cool. I think it turned out better than I thought. Oh, hang on. I forgot. There we go. Forgot one background light. I thought that looked a little bit better to have the patch wall lit up. So I don't know if anybody else notices the little things or if it matters or not, but I probably spent way too much time working on my dang studio, but that is what it is. King Dingaling, good afternoon. Happy to be here with you as well. Afternoon to you, and hope things are going well. Obviously, it's Easter coming up, so holiday weekend. I know a lot of people will be traveling. A lot of people will be spending time with family and loved ones. And before we get into the gun stuff and we start to answer your comments, I just want to share a little bit that I hope you guys are blessed. I hope you guys are doing well, and I mean that. Like you guys in particular, the QA viewer and listener is really kind of an inner circle of my audience. Some of my videos do great. Some of them really don't. But what I really like is interacting and seeing the same people comment, the same people interact, and the QA is just something fun for me to do. I'd like to grow it, and there might be some stuff in the future changing a little bit, so that might be an opportunity. We'll see. But it's still something fun for me to do and a great way for me to connect. So if you want to support the channel, speaking of, I got to thank those supporters. The best way to do so is on Patreon. We have some great Patreon supporters. It's not very busy over there. I need to do more. I know that. But some people do occasionally reach out and ask if they want to support the channel. You can also leave a super chat or a super thanks. That's always great too. But if you want to support consistently and you don't mind throwing a little bit of money in the tip jar, if you will, you can head on over to Patreon. If you're looking for some extra codes and things like that, I do have codes and whatnot that I do put out for Patreons first. And then hopefully, as I get organized, one of my year goals is to try to put out content there first as kind of like a preview, if you will. But that's going on the Patreon as well. So thank you to all of our Patreon supporters. Kevin, always the number one supporter, and a lot of email questions from Kevin. So we'll get to as many of those as we can. Now, the one question I did have, I think you just sent this, was about pirates on the Mississippi River. And at first I didn't know what you were talking about, but is that like happening somewhere down south where there's literally like pirates on? Because I quick did a Google search and I didn't see anything. So we all been aware of like pirates in the oceans and things like that, but I would love to learn more about if there's more boat crime or water crime, because it just fascinates me for some reason. So I couldn't find a whole lot of information about it, and I don't know what the circumstances are, but for some reason that just fascinates me, and I would love to learn more about it. So I don't have a great answer for you or to get into a lot of details because I don't have the context, or I just like to learn more about it. So that would be part of what I would love to learn. So, all right, since we don't have a ton of comments, let's just hop into the emails here quick. This first one is from Kevin. This is one of yours. Let's see. Why do you prefer not to shoot from reset? There are numerous reasons why people don't. Everything from gun experience with non-reset friendly guns like 220s, 226. I try to shoot from reset, but I forget under stress, and that's exactly why I don't do it. So here's the thing. For those of you guys that don't know what reset is, the Glock, for example, is the most popular gun where I think that reset kind of came from. Basically, you pin the trigger to the back, bang, and then you reset the trigger. You get an audible click, a feel click, and then it takes it to a wall, and then boom, you can go from there. Okay. Now here's the thing. I have shot from reset as well. I was trained from the Glock people. I get it. It's a technique, but then when I started to think about like why, as I evolved in kind of my instructional career and my shooting proficiency and all this other stuff, and I started to learn from other dudes, and they were like, why are you pinning the reset? Why are you pinning the trigger? Why are you resetting? And here's where I'm at now. I don't think it's worth the time. I have found one officer-involved shooting video, one, where I could actually hear the officer pinning and resetting the trigger. Just one. And that was a very distance-focused shot. It was definitely more of a marksmanship type, okay, slow down, bang, click, bang. That's the only one out of I don't know how many gazillion officer involved shootings or shooting videos that I've studied or competition shooters or whatever. So I've seen it used once in real life. So then the question is, like Kevin, you said, you forget to do it under stress. If we don't do it under stress, then obviously it's not natural. It's not intuitive. So why are we training to do something that we're likely not going to do or far more likely not going to do? So therefore, I don't think it's worth it. The other reason is a couple reasons. Number one, I don't think it necessarily gains you anything because now I got to do two things when I want to fire. If I'm pinning that trigger and holding it back to the rear, and then all of a sudden the sights are in alignment and everything's ready to go, I have to reset, then press. That's two things when all I want to do is press. So I reset under recoil. That's what I try to do. The other thing is that when people pin that trigger back to the rear, a lot of times they overpin it. So they just don't come to a perfect stop at the very end of that wall and hold it there. They usually end up mashing it and putting a far more input and energy, and that causes those rounds to go one way or another. So I just don't like it in that regard. And then I guess additionally, people who do reset and then they say, oh yeah, I do it all the time. I do it all the time. And I was like, really? So even when you're shooting fast, you reset? Oh yeah, yeah. As soon as I get the shot timer and the slow-mo camera out and I record them, they're slapping and resetting, over traveling, all that. So I just don't think it's worth it. Now, Glock will tell you that what's cool is that if there are certain parts, mainly is it the trigger spring? Might be the trigger spring. If the trigger spring is broken, if you pin it and the gun cycles, it will reset, which is kind of a cool thing, like a fail-safe if you had a parts stoppage. If the trigger does not reset on its own, that's kind of one technique with the Glock because of how it works, which, again, the Glock is an amazing engineered piece of technology. I don't care what anybody says. That's a respectable platform. Like there's so many cool things that the Glock platform has brought to the industry and just revolutionized at the time. And think about it. It's a 1985 design. Like that's pretty crazy that it's almost 40 years old and it's still relevant in today. But I guess you could say that about the 1911, 2011, and those are well over 100 years old. So maybe that's not the best argument. I don't know. But anyways, that's why I don't do it, and that's why it is. So I'm a pirate at heart. Well, you know what they say? I think it was Apple. Steve Jobs said it's better to be a pirate than in the Navy, and I'm a huge Apple nerd, those that know me. But it does fascinate me. Like I'm legitimately fascinated about this whole Pirates of the Mississippi thing. So Dustin, hey, thank you very much, man. Super chat from Dustin, a 10 spot here. He was going to donate to Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, but I appreciate it, and hopefully I'll never need it as bail money. I haven't been following the whole Puff Daddy thing. I know that I guess he fled the country. I don't know what the whole thing is. I'm kind of out of the date when it comes to current events, so it's going to be interesting to see kind of what happens with that. And then Dan asks, any holster suggestions for a TWC9? And as you corrected there, inside the waistband, outside, concealed carry, like what kind of holster are you looking for? Give me a little bit more info if you don't mind, and then we can loop back to that question. Let's check in with the email here quick. Back to that. Kevin also asked about, is shooting with an occluded red dot a legitimate training technique or a parlor trick, especially when students have monovision, etc.? Are there other techniques that can help target focused? Let's see. The government instructors get all angry with me. Ben Stoker tells the truth that iron sights do not need to be focused. Yes, that's true. I just want to make sure there's other part of that question. So here is my take on it. Occluded dot. Basically what he means is that if we were coming up, we would basically put something in front of the lens of the optic, so that is occluded. So you have to use both eyes. So I use it for a couple of reasons. Number one, I use it as part of my optics malfunctions segment, because what if I was in some sort of situation and something happened to where the front of the lens was blocked somehow, or it was damaged, or it had fog or condensation or mud or crud, or whatever it might be. What do? Well, we just know that the dot still works, right? The Benton aiming concept basically says if this eye is looking at stuff and this eye is looking at my dot, my brain will superimpose the two, and basically I'll see it there. And if this was even occluded, fun fact, the original aim point, they make awesome rifle sights and pistol sights. Their very first rifle sight actually had an occluded front lens. It was a solid front lens, and then you had to keep both eyes open. So number one, we can use it as that. Number two, I use it as a training aid when I have a shooter who does this. and I want to encourage them to try to keep both eyes open, I will then use the occluded dot as a training aid because it reinforces us having to keep both eyes open. Additionally, target focus is best, especially with red dot, right? That's human nature. That's what we're going to be looking at. We always are threat focused, and the dot can help that. However, sometimes I get people who are like, oh man, I was focusing on the dot and then the target's blurry and their shots start to get all over the place, especially at distance and all that other stuff. So again, an occluded dot drill can help reinforce target focus. So yes, I think it's a legitimate training aid. Does it have its limitations? Yeah. Some dudes run it all the time because that's how their mind works. Now, here's the thing. We all have to be realistic to what works for us might not work the best for somebody else. And if that trick works the best for them, even if it's not the norm, but the exception, but man, it works, and their performance tells them and us that it works, then sometimes we got to be open-minded, even if I secretly think some of the people that do stuff are like clown shoes or whatever. But man, if it works for them, sometimes we got to be realistic. Okay. Like how many people give pro shooters crap over their grip or over their technique or whatever, but then you look at like their body mechanics or their size or their stature or their structure, or it's just the habit that they learned and they're comfortable with it. Sometimes we just got to do what we do. It might not work for everybody else, but it might work for them. So I think occluded dot drills are legitimate. And then you did some testing and you turned a dot off with UTM guns and they said they saw it and all that other stuff. That's kind of mean, man. That's a mean trick, but I'm not opposed. I kind of like mean tricks sometimes. All right. So Dan, outside the waistband. I know that their dust cover, I don't have a TWC9. They asked for it back. I can't remember if their dust cover was too big to where it would fit in a holster. Now, assuming you're going to run it with an optic, it would probably fit. I believe mine fit just fine in the Staccato P holsters. So like the Blackhawk T series, it would probably fit. And I believe the new Staccato P with the larger optic, it would probably fit just fine that with a light. So those would be kind of the two I would look at, like the Safariland ALS, which is like I can't remember if it's a 63, 77, 78, 79, something along that point, but it's their new RDS stuff, and you could have it with a light, with an optic, all that. I would look at that for a range holster or like the Blackhawk T series. I think you should be good to go for that gun. All right, D-Time American. Is a suppressed SBR superior to a 16-inch? I don't know. It depends, man. Here's the thing. Kind of depends on what you're doing with it, right? Oh, what was that? I don't know if you guys could hear that. I think that was a dog or something. I just heard like something creak. Oh, no, it's our live studio audience. Apparently, it's spring holiday and they don't have school today. So, yeah. Anyways, back to the question at hand. And you know the rules, my dude. Okay. So, okay, we'll make some lunch here in a little bit. It's in the back somewhere over here. So is a suppressed SBR superior to a 16-inch? It kind of depends on what you're doing. So like if it was, let's say, a competition rifle, a 3-gun rifle, a suppressor is not really going to add much for me. So a 16-inch would probably be superior in that regard. However, if it's for a dual rifle, a GPR, general purpose, or whatever acronym people like, 11.5, 12.5-inch gun, man, that suppressor might be a decent add because it reduces your signature a little bit, right? But you have to ask yourself, like, do I really need to reduce that signature that much? Do I really care about it? Or is the weight going to be more of an offset or more of a deterrent, if you will? Because there's no free lunches with everything, right? But if I had to shoot a rifle without Ear Pro, I would rather shoot it with a suppressor. But if I have the time to grab a rifle, hopefully I have the time to grab Ear Pro. So that's my opinion on it. Let's say, I don't know. It depends. I would just put it in the microwave for like a minute or two. I would do the microwave. Yeah. Microwave. You got this. Otherwise, Lucy will help you. Okay. Because I think it would burn, and it's like all the noodles and stuff wouldn't go well in there. So, yeah. All right. See, this is the joys of live and a live studio audience. Is you have to help your kids how to reheat their leftovers to make lunch. So, but this is what it is. This is real. This is what it is, dudes. Let's see here. That's a good question. All right. This is from Double XL Tall X Tejano. What do you think about the Q300 Blackout Sugar Weasel versus the Rattler 300 Blackout Suppressed? I don't own a Q gun. I do own a couple of SIGs. I own a regular MCX and I own a Spear, and I like the MCX. It's a really nice platform. Don't get me wrong. Very, very nice. However, I did get to hang out with the dudes from Q at SHOT Show, and I got to hear more about their passion, the design, the engineering, their products, and a Q is on my very short list. I would be shocked if I don't have a Q firearm of some type. I don't know if it's going to be a Sugar Weasel, but maybe. But I'm going to have some Q stuff in my safe here, hopefully in the not too distant future, because I really liked hanging out with those guys. And I could just tell the passion that they put into their products, the reputation that they try to value and hold themselves to, and what they kind of have going on has a lot of respect for me. So I'm really looking forward to getting one. I've heard nothing but good things. Now, I'm sure if you scour the internet enough, you could probably find a bad review on anything, but I really like the Q stuff. I'm probably going to order like an SBR in a can and kind of give it a whirl. So hopefully we'd have some content on that maybe this summer. Yeah, we'll have to kind of play around. But if there's a particular Q product that you would want me to check out, whether it's a Sugar Weasel or, you know, some of their other products, I'd be definitely game. Sean, I think you're in here still. What were you playing with? It wasn't the Honey Badger. I can't remember what you played with that you really liked. Was it the Sugar Weasel or was it So here's the other thing. I am not the best with like keeping track of all the model names and everything else anymore. And I know like they have all these different animals that, so I'd have to look at their webpage to double check, but the Q stuff impressed me. So I'm probably going to play around with more of that. I'd like to have some more. If I was buying one, I would not hesitate to buy a Q right now. Not at all. I would buy a Q. And in some ways, I think there's some benefits to buying from a smaller company just because they have a lot more passion. And obviously there's some risk too, but they have, that passion of trying to see everything grow. So I think it's kind of cool sometimes to support, the little guys a little bit, but Q's not really small. They have some heavy hitters behind this, or, their founder obviously, but they have some heavy hitters in the industry. And obviously SIG is like a huge machine powerhouse as well. So yeah, that's what I would look at. All right. This one is, what are your thoughts of performance will be of the Platypus with the bull? I don't know, but I want one. If it shoots just as good as my current Platypus with the bushing barrel, it's going to be a rock star. My personal Platypus that I'm going to order next is going to be with their new aggressive grip. They had a clever name for it. What the heck was it called? Dang it. I'm going to forget. I have to Google it. But their aggressive grip texture felt awesome in the hand. Like, I like aggressive grips, okay? So here's my philosophy for grip texture, and this is not for everybody, but I'm a shooter. At least I like to think of myself. If the grip, when I grip on it and I get on it and I open my hand and I don't see blood, not sharp enough, okay? When I see blood, then I got to tone it down just a little bit, right? But I like aggressive, grippy grips, especially for range guns. If I'm carrying it inside the waist, appendix, whatever, obviously common sense says I don't want that sharp or aggressive of a grip. I made the mistake of doing an appendix class. This was probably 2 summers ago. First time I'm doing appendix, and I was using an aggressively stippled staccato. And by the end of the class, like, I had road rash on my belly because, yeah, it was not pleasant. So obviously adapt for the situation, and you could soften that up a little bit. The prickle, thank you, my guy. The prickle, but the prickle felt awesome. It was great. That is what I would buy right now. And then their bull barrel looked really good. The tolerances look good. So if I was buying a Platypus right now, and here's the deal, if you're on the fence of buying a Platypus, just do it right now because their lead time continues to increase. Like, talk about a company that is just crushing it. Like, really good pistols, a lot of good features going on. The quality was great. They shoot great. And they take stupid cheap Glock magazines. Like, it is like the success story, right? Do it now because the wait time is just going to continue to go up. So I'm going to order one with the prickle texture, bull barrel, and I'm hoping that there's something else that I can't quite talk about, but they're awesome pistols. So that's the only thing I'm kind of waiting for, but I would not hesitate. I'm going to look forward to hanging out with those dudes at NRA show. I believe I'm going to NRA in May. Speaking of which, I know we don't have that many people watching at this exact moment, but is anybody going to NRA? So if you're watching this after listening, leave a comment. And if you're going to go to NRA, I'll try to bring some patches, some Internet Range Safety Officer patches and operator patches. And then I'm going to be working on another patch design that will be ready for SHOT Show and maybe Trigger Gut. So we'll see what that is, but that'll be kind of the fun patch. The Internet Range Safety Officer was the fun patch. I don't know if I'm going to retire that patch or if I'm going to keep it, but we're going to have a new fun patch as well for TriggerCon, SHOT Show, all that kind of stuff. So if you run into me or if you're going to NRA, leave a comment. Let's try to hang out, meet up, whatever. I am always like super humbled when somebody comes up to me and says, "Hey, Dave, I watch your stuff. That's so cool." And then like, what's even more humbling is like they want to take a picture with me, and it's like, I'm not that cool, but it just really, really humbles me. And I'll always take selfies with people, right? If you think I'm cool enough, you want to ask me for a selfie, rock on. But I'm much uglier in person, and I tell people that. Like a lot of people meet me, they're like, "Are you Dave?" I pictured something better. I'm not gonna lie, pictured something better. Or like when people come here and they look at the studio, they're like, "Oh, this is it." So it's the magic of cameras, right? All right, let's loop back to emails. This one is from Art. Art, MP5 question. Recently, Zenith ZF5, their MP5 clone, become available to California. Yeah, heck yeah, man. I understand that the MP5 has so much more upgrading options, so I was curious my experience and thoughts on the platform. Some upgrade considerations, optic mount, brace system. Let's see, something that really caught my eye is the trigger group housing from Lee Sporting. Yes. So, Lee Sporting, I actually had one to kind of play around, and it looked awesome. I didn't get a chance to use it because I can't remember the exact logistics, if it I needed a shelf, a pin, or whatever, but I got to look at the product. It looked really cool. I sent that back. He's going to be hopefully sending me a new one to play with for the SP5. So I'll get that mounted on my SP5. But what it allows people to do is the MP5 triggers have been known for being meh at best to maybe, oh, okay at best, but it's a different trigger. What this housing allows you to do is put an AR trigger in it, plus with an AR selector and a grip, so you improve ergonomics, interface, as well as the trigger. So super cool idea. I'm looking forward to getting one and adding it back on my SP5. And then as far as optics, what I did is I added a rear sight replacement. So I took the rear sight off and I found this mount. I think it was like from Fowler or Failer Tech. If you email me and remind me, I can try to send you a link. And then I mounted an SRO. I like that big window, so I have the SRO, and then I put a backup sight in that, and then I chopped off the hood on the front, which I know people like. I made a short or a reel about it, and people are like, "You just ruined the gun." And it's like, okay, made it better, but whatever. So I chopped off the hood to make it more visible, similar to like the Rob Hott mod that he was doing on the Ghost Rings. I basically just chopped the front of the top half of the Ghost Ring off, and it's awesome. Like basically, it comes up that SRO with the big window, and then I do have rear sight as a backup sight if the dot were to go down. And then yes, I like the Midwest Industries M-Lock handguard. Obviously, I had a business relationship with Midwest. I was doing their install videos for a long time. So if you watch their install video, you'll see my ugly mug. But I like it. So I think the MP5 is still cool. And is it dated? Absolutely. Is it as modular as a 9 AR, or a PCC, modern PCC? No, but man, there's just still something special. Like all these years, decades later, the MP5 just feels and runs like a sewing machine. There's still nothing like it. And there's some things that are close. Like I love my MPX. The new one from Nemo that I did at SHOT Show, I did a short video on it. Looks really cool. And then there's obviously a bunch of AR blowback 9s, which I don't think are as cool, but I definitely like the MP5 and some of the new stuff. So I would for sure try to do that. No hesitations. If you can get an MP5, totally do it. Everybody should have one. Kevin's email: what makes people afraid of new ideas, super especially with the gun stuff? And then what can help people have open minds, at least to make an effort towards thinking logically? Man, that is always a struggle. People tend to have bias. Like I talk about it in my classes, instructor bias, how instructors need to crack that shell, because an instructor will have an instructor bias where they will perform and demo one technique because it's the technique that they're good at that makes them look the best. And therefore it is their bias, even though it might not be the technique for everybody who's a different shape, different size, different equipment, different experience, all that stuff. So we definitely need to be aware of instructor bias without, being partial to one technique. And we also need to realize that sometimes things change. And just because you went through a 3 initial organization instructor school back in the 90s doesn't mean that people can't figure out fine motor skill versus gross motor skill even under stress. We have videos and videos and videos of people proving otherwise. So sometimes it just takes good quality leadership and people to be inspired. However, sometimes people will be closed-minded, and those people, you can, like the old saying goes, you can lead a horse to water, right? And then one more question from Kevin, then we'll go back to some comments. What method appears to be more accepted to determine target acquisition time with a handgun, IR laser movement, or telemetry from a 3-axis gyro like the Mantis or something like that, I assume? What appears to be the more accepted? I guess I don't have a good answer for you, man. I don't know. Most people aren't going to have access to an IR laser and camera, so I think just from a logistics standpoint, the Mantis would probably be the best solution, just because it's way more available for everybody. So, and here's the other thing. All that stuff is really cool, but sometimes we all just need to practice the fundamentals. We need to get out to the range, get our shot timer, and it's okay to just do some basic drills, because it's not a bad thing to work on the fundamentals. So that's my question. Okay, I got one more here since you're already done. And Kevin, I don't know what the context is, but I have never heard this experience. So, what should be done when a disgruntled employee contaminates the ammunition supply for the department? One police officer got angry and contaminated the ammo that would kaboom the handgun and rifles. I don't know what they would do, because even with a modern pistol that's capable of that, you can't overcharge a 9mm cartridge to the point where, now maybe they're using a Magnum primer, maybe they're doing something weird, but I don't know of any ammo. Like, what departments are reloading? Like, how, I don't know the context or the situation that this happened, because I don't know any department of all the people I've talked to that reloads. So I don't know how it would have gotten corrupt to the point where it would kaboom. So I need more context on that. And I don't know how long ago this happened. Was this an old thing when there was reloading? I don't know. But I'm not aware of any agency that reloads. So that's crazy. And I don't know why they would. Like, just buy it. Shows up, right? All right, let's go back to the comments here quick. And let's check in. They say the camera adds 200 square feet. Yes, it does. All right, who has a decent rifle qual to look at? Trying to gather data for skill building for church security. That's a good question, my man. If you send me an email, I'd be more than happy to send you some of the stuff that I've used in like LE training and stuff. And I'll be up front. It wasn't super hard. I can send you some drills that are humbling. Like Dustin is on here. He's shot the rifle 5x5, and that's a humbling drill. So I'd be more than happy to send you some of that stuff, and we can kind of talk and you can kind of figure it out. It's funny you mentioned that. I had a local church reach out. They want to do some training this year, and they want to do like whiz bang ninja stuff, right? Like, oh, we're church security and we're volunteers and this, that. And I'm like, okay, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but what'll be humbling is when we actually get there and they'll find out like, hey, we're just going to do some basic stuff and we'll see where everybody's at. Because I've had this happen in the past where everybody wants to do high-speed ninja operator stuff, but when we actually just do a warm-up and we look at our target, we're not quite ready to do ninja high-speed operator stuff when we just need to work on the fundamentals. So that's happened a lot. And it's, Dustin, I can't remember if you were at that class or not. That was 2 or 3 summers ago. And we really had to dial it down. Like the first day I told the host, I was like, hey man, we're supposed to be doing this, this, and this, but the class is here. So we have to really kind of dial things back before we can move on to this stuff. And that's generally what happens a lot. Even like instructor classes. I was teaching a LE instructor contract class. Super good dudes, but they were stuck in like a bubble in a spear, and they haven't had exposure to a lot of training. And when we go to do a warm up, and I was just like, oh man, we got some work to do, guys. Like, here's where we're at. We got some work to do. So sometimes working on the fundamentals is never a bad thing, or it can be at a level of proficiency. Yes, it was B-Town. That's right. So yeah, you were there. I'm almost positive you know what's going on. All right. Oh, Sean, while we were at SHOT Show, Dave paid some guys to pop out and be super excited to see him every time Thomas and I came around. I claim I didn't know them, but you don't believe me. And you know what? I still hold to that claim. I have no idea who those dudes were, but that was crazy. And true story is, I think it was it around the Stealth booth, or was it up at the Voodoo booth or something like that? Anyways, I'm fans of both companies. I love both their pistols, but it was crazy because it was crazy because when I came up, they were like, "Hey, Dave, like I watched your video," and I think one of the guys is a retiring cop, I believe, as well. And then Sean and Thomas were there, and they were like, "Oh yeah," and I was like, "See, guys, I do have fans." And then sure enough, like the next day, I run into Sean and Thomas, guys I work with, and we're talking, and then these same dudes show up, and they're like, Dave, and I'm like, so it was crazy. Out of all the things to happen at SHOT Show, it was weird, and it was almost like I told them, I'd be like, I will be at booth 21005 at 1:00. I need you guys to be here, but it was crazy. Maybe they were stalking me. I don't know. Maybe they were following me around. I really don't know. It was multiple times. See, I'm not making this up, but it's crazy. Yes, and it was B-Town, and maybe you weren't there. Yeah, that could be. So, all right, we're caught up on comments. Let me loop back to the emails, and we're doing good. I think we're doing good on time and all that other stuff. Kevin, I know I'm not going to be able to get to all your questions. I'm only at March 3rd in the inbox so far. So I don't think we're going to be able to get to all of them. What do you recommend as additional verification items for the annual inspection of pistols and rifles when red dot sights are included? Any battery change of the officers? Well, it depends on the optic model for that. With the RMR, the original, that was one of the biggest downsides, is that battery changes was an armor only function. So I would, say that that's a huge advantage to other ones. But yes, now again, I don't know. Are you volunteering? Are you teaching the department? Because you're like, of the RDS equipped pistols in the department, 22% had dead batteries, 84% had the right screw sticking into the EDP, all this other stuff. Like, where are you getting your data? Like, I don't know. Are you a reserve? I can't remember if you maybe did that, or what your volunteer instructor. I don't know what you're doing nowadays with that. So, but part of it is going to be whatever your training regimen is for that agency, is you'll do a basic gear inspection, a surface, and then hopefully at the annual level, you're doing an armor inspection. Now, I'm a proponent of changing batteries about every 6 months. I used to say every year, but a lot of times cops like to put it on their manual setting and leave it, set it, forget it. So sometimes 6 months is a more appropriate battery change cycle. And that's also evolved with some of the other optics that are coming out with smaller batteries. Again, no disrespect. It's just a matter of logistics of how much they can fit. But when you have a 2032 and then you go down to a 1632, it only makes sense that battery has less capacity, so we might need to change the battery more often. I'm still not always the biggest fan of shake awakes and all that, but like my personal technique was, I used to work 8 on, 6 off rotation. So 8 days on, 6 days off. On my first day, on my 8-day stretch, I would turn my dot on, set it to my setting, set it, and then it would basically ride in that setting until my Friday at the end of my 8-day stretch. And then I would turn the optic off, put everything away, all my gear away, bring home, all my stuff to launder and uniforms and all that other stuff, check out for my 6 days off, come back, start it again. So that was what I did, and it worked for me, and I didn't burn through batteries. Now, I know some dudes left it on all the time, and then they would go through it a little bit quicker, and it just makes sense. But that was what I do. So that's kind of my thing. Do you have a new platypus? Do you have a platypus with the new updates on order? Kinda. So the owner and I have been talking, and we're working on a couple things. So hopefully I'll get an updated pistol here soon. They're super busy. Like, lead time is like 20 weeks, I think. And they're trying to work on, just keeping up with everybody. And I told him, and he's told me, like, some dumb YouTuber from Minnesota is low priority compared to like getting customer orders out. So I don't expect anything. Like, a good company puts customers first, right? That's what they should do. Now, yes, I can get all of that, like, oh, you need to put marketing effort in and all this other stuff. But what I respect about Stealth is that they put customers first, and that's pretty cool. So I don't think I would beat you if Dave ordered, especially because I'm just a dumb YouTuber. But I do want to get one for sure. I want to get one with the prickle grip, the bull barrel. It'd be awesome, like, for sure. And yes, I agree. Batteries are cheap, so stock them up. Go to Costco. You can get the Duracell 2032. Yeah, 2032. I'm having a brain delay. You can get the cart of Duracell 2032 batteries, super cheap. Stock up, keep them in your range bag, do whatever. And then I order my 1632s on like Amazon or whatever, because I can't find those locally as easy, or I don't want to pay as much. Like, there's one local store that sells them individuals, and I love supporting local business. However, when it's like a 75% price savings, then sometimes I will look at online. So that's my philosophy. All right, we're caught up on comments. Let's go back to emails here quick. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit just to make sure that I'm covering trying to cover everybody's email questions. This one is from Aaron. Just came across your YouTube channel, and turns out he's also in Minnesota in Eden Prairie. So welcome to the show, man. Super excited. And he watched the Co-Witnessing Irons red dot video, which is a great video of mine that doing really well as far as views and stuff. So super excited that you got to see that. All right. Okay, hang on. What's your question? Why do we need to have co-witness sights on our red dot pistols? For me, I'm not concerned about my battering being dead or not being able to defend myself from a paper zombie. And if I'm being honest, if I had to pull my guns in self-defense, I'm pretty confident I wouldn't need to use the sights. I could totally understand if running a gun is part of your life. No, great question. Here's the deal. You might not. There's a lot of competition shooters out there who are shooting just optic guns. You might not need backup sights. Don't worry about it. For me, just my opinion, I have backup sights on anything that's a carry gun or a training gun or whatever, because I like to lead by example. And most of the dudes that I train, I love doing open enrollment classes. I just haven't had as much demand lately. So it's not that, like, I've had some people ask, like, how come you're not doing open enrollment classes? Host a class, man. Well, I don't want to host a class and I don't have a range. And so I haven't had as much demand. Love to do open enrollment classes, but right now I've had way more demand on cops and agencies hounding me. So that's what I'm doing. It's just a simple thing. Nothing discriminatory, nothing whatever. And I had a couple of people like email, seriously, drama. I don't get whatever. Sorry. I need to hang on. I may or may not have a certain coffee creamer with a kick. Just saying. It's the last Friday of the month, right? You can let your hair down a little bit. But anyways, I've just had more demand for that. So the dudes that I'm teaching are carrying these for duty or instructing or whatever. So it makes sense for them to have backup sights, and I like to lead by example and kind of show the equipment setup. Now, if a competition gun can have backup sights, for me, it doesn't hurt anything. I don't shoot as many competitions anymore. When I was super serious about it, I wouldn't even be opposed to having backup sights, because I'd hate to be right in the middle of a stage and have a breakdown and then lose and tank that stage when I could have had some backup sights. Even when I was shooting, I used to shoot TAC optics. So we were allowed one magnified optic, actually one optic at that time. I don't know if TAC optics is allowed to run red dots on pistols or whatever. But anyways, we were allowed to have one magnified optic. Everybody ran that on your rifle. But then I would have a set of little offset backup sights. Yes, you could use them up close, but in the event that something were to happen with that rifle optic, I did have a set of backup sights. So I don't know. It's what I did. If I was running a class now where I could run an optic on my pistol, I would probably have a backup sight on it, just because that's just me. But you don't need it. You're totally right. Like, the question of why do we need it? You don't. You might not, and that's totally okay. So perfectly legit question. I've been invited to take part as one of the that's a spam email. And let's go through and make sure. This one's from Randy. Dave, I just watched 2 of your videos. I have to say, some of the best educational videos I've watched. Well, thanks, man. You know how to warm my heart by kissing up to me right away. I'm looking at the C2 with a light and a Holosun 507 for my first staccato. I shot at friends and fell in love. Any feedback? No, you're going to love it, man. The C2 is arguably one of their best. I personally think that their the Staccato P is the best do-everything pistol that they make, but it's a little big. So if you're looking for carrying it, which you suggested here for CCW, the C2, the CS, or the new C are all going to be great options. They're going to shoot really nice. The performance is going to be good. You can put a slim light on there so you can get good holsters without having to get a bunch of bulk. The only thing I would look at is for your C2 is maybe check out the new EPS carry optics. They're going to be an enclosed emitter, a little bit higher quality. You can look at the SCS 320, and I believe they also are having the SCS carry. And again, what's nice is no fuss, no muss. They're going to mount really nice. So I would look at maybe a little bit different or a better optic. And then as far as holsters, QVO Tactical, Tier 1, LAS, TAC Rig, or, man, those would be like probably my go-to for Kydex guys. If you didn't care about the light as much, you could look at like a Milt Sparks for a leather inside the waistband. I thought I had one around here, but those would kind of be some options for me that I would definitely look. So that, that would be my suggestions for that. Let me kind of cruise through the email here. And Netflix wants to sponsor me, blah, blah, blah. See, and that's the downside, is when you put an email address out and your channel starts to grow a little bit, is you start to get way too much of this spam. All right, this is one from Kevin. How do we train people not to fire from the back of the bus, violating the rules of muzzle discipline? What are things what things can people at the front of the bus do to make sure or mitigate the chances of being struck by a negligent shot from the back? So that is a huge, huge training issue. And I will give major props to the guys at the Gray Group, formerly 88 Tactical Mobile Training Team. The Gray Group, those dudes, as far as CQB, muzzle handling, everything like that, they are kings of the ring. They have a lot of really great philosophies about earning your shot, muzzle before meat. I've learned so much when I was working with those dudes. I have mad respect for Aaron and for Trevor. And I got to work with some other amazing instructors, Chris, KP, John, Jorgie. You know, like there's so many good dudes there. It was a really, really tough choice to no longer, train with. It just became too busy for some travel stuff. That's the main reason. Like it was no ill or anything like that. We talked about that last summer, dudes. But those guys, if you're looking for a great class, check out Gray Group, High Threat, Close Quarter Contact, CQC is what they call it. That if you have the opportunity to go to one of their open classes, they do a lot of LE contracts and agencies and stuff, but man, legit, absolutely legit training as far as those concepts. Kevin, you did email another question about, and I wish I could find it because I can address it. Oh, what was it? It was about, like, again, that the LE versus citizen classes of, like, why can one, what would be a legitimate reason why a citizen instructor and law enforcement instructors cannot take an RDS instructor course together? And you said it seems like simple cowardice, nothing more, nothing less. The instructor students at a most recent RDS got a perfect 0, the highest score. Basically, you're kind of talking about how the LE instructors sucked. So here's the deal. Number one, there are legitimate reasons. Number one, the range might be a government facility and their policy just might be LE only. And that's mainly due to the checkbook and the liability. If they open it up to citizens or whatever, they know that they're opening themselves up to liability. And when they have other government or agency or whatever, the risk for that is way lower because police departments generally don't sue other police departments. So I don't know if you've noticed that or not. So that's a number one, just business decision that sometimes they will make. They can control that. They'll reduce that liability, insurance, all that. Additionally, some classes, like when I teach my red dot instructor class, I don't care if a citizen comes through it. I've had citizens come through it, but I've also had those same citizens be like, yeah, some of that stuff really didn't apply to me. Like, I really don't care about case law. I don't care about liability. I don't care about policy development because they don't have to deal with that stuff, right? So some of the meat and potatoes is good to go with everybody. But some of the side stuff really is only applicable towards that audience. So then it kind of makes sense. If it only caters to that audience, why not just let that audience be that audience and then develop a different class? So I would be more than happy, like me personally, if a citizen wanted to come to a red dot instructor class and the host agency didn't care, rock on, show up, don't care. Nothing in there is top secret, okay? Now, is it a better training environment? I get it. Some people can argue that it's a little bit more comfortable if just the cops are training with the cops because, let's be honest, ego can be a part of a good training environment. Okay. I'm not dismissive of that at all either, but sometimes it's just literally about the content. I don't think it's as much of a, conspiracy or anything like that. And I don't think it's, I don't think it's anything. And then again, you talked about no video cameras and all that other stuff. Most of the ranges that I teach at all have recording. So again, I don't know. I don't know your experiences or what it's been like down in Illinois, but most of the ranges I go to have CCTV recording everything all the time. And that's just kind of how it goes. So watch the fall. Hang on, let me go back to the live stream here. Watch the fall of Minneapolis. I still haven't watched that yet. I just need to sit down and watch it. So I'll learn more about that. Maybe we can talk about that another time. I carry a C2 with the Holosun 509 in a tier 1. Yeah, love it. Yep, exactly. So good option there. Well, here's the deal. If Glock's motto is Glock perfection, why are they on Gen 5? Because Glock almost perfection isn't catchy enough. So that's why. It's marketing, my man. Or Glock nearly perfection or anything like that. It's just not as catchy. So, or it's the 5th generation of perfection. But you got to admit, it's a cool marketing slogan, right? Like, you got to give the guys credit at Glock and their marketing team when they came up with Glock perfection. It's bold. It's a little bit out there, especially at the time when they started doing that. But here's the other thing. Sometimes things can evolve. We have to give them a little grace, right? Because if they still made the 17 Gen 1, we'd all be complaining. Because was it perfection at the time? Yeah, maybe it was. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it wasn't perfect for you, whatever. But we got to give them props for evolving. And here's the one thing I will say. The best thing about a Glock is it's a Glock. You know exactly what you're going to get. The worst thing about a Glock is it'll always be a Glock. I don't think they're ever going to transform to become super outside of the box. Whereas you take a company like SIG, who has transformed their product line incredibly different areas. We started, like, I think arguably we would go back to like the 220, 226, 229, those DISA guns, great guns, reliable. Then they evolved. Like, how many people remember the SIG Pro? Remember that thing? I can't remember what the model number was, but the SIG Pro was supposed to be like the Glock killer. And now we have the 320 and the 365 and their 1911s. And I'm surprised they have not come out with a double stack. But one of the guns I love from SIG is the X5. I will have a video coming out on the X5 Legion coming up too. And then I know, Kevin, you emailed me about the Legion and if it was worth the hype or the package or not. Ultimately, that's up to people, right? The Legion is just a trim level, if you will. And is that worth it for people? I don't know. Same thing like a platinum or a limited edition on a car. Is that trim level worth it? And obviously, everybody has to figure out, are they capable of, you know, do they have the means to do that? Are they going to take advantage of it? And are they, you know, basically going to, you know, utilize that trim level? All right, let's take a look at our comments, make sure we're caught up on those, which it looks like we are. We're also coming up on the hour, so if you guys have anything you want to talk about, leave a comment down below. And then we also have a giveaway. Hey, real quick, I think I might have one Geisley code left, and it expires the 31st. So I don't know. If I still have it. I know I gave away a couple to some people. I thought I had one more, but if anybody could use a Geisley code, I might have one, but of course, maybe I gave it away. So maybe the answer is no. Maybe I shouldn't have said anything because I don't appear to have it. So never mind. Scratch that. Nobody's getting the code because unless I find it miraculously. I thought I remember to set it aside because I thought I might have had one, but well, anyways, I know some dudes last month got some codes, so that's cool. Yeah, I need to do some more shop cleaning. I was trying to do some more cleaning with, you know, rearranging and all that other stuff. So, yeah. All right, what is for lunch? I don't know. I have a meeting after this that I have to hop into, so I have liquid lunch. It maybe has some Irish creamer in it with a little bit of a kick, which is kind of contributing to my positive, chipper attitude today. All right. Res Dog, hey, man. Honestly, this is one of the highlights of my month. I'd like to do it more often, and I'd like to be making more content, but things have been keeping me busy, but I'm going to try to get to it. Let's see here. What pistols are you looking forward to getting your hands on or actually buying? Ooh, good question. Good question. Okay. I feel like it's a little bit of a cop-out for me to say the new Staccato C, because everybody knows I'm a Staccato fanboy, but I want to get one. I don't know if I get some rounds through it and get some range time, I'll be up front. I don't know if it is legitimately going to sway me away from a Staccato P, for example. So there's that. But I want to try one. The SIG X5, I've always wanted an X5. Like, man, I don't know if you guys remember when the X5s came out or were available back in, I don't even know what it was, the 90s or whatever. Like, I'm not that old, but that's when I would see them. And the German X5s, those stainless frames with those beautiful wood grips and the ergonomics, like that thing felt so good. And then they reintroduced it, and then now they have the Legion X5, which I have a demo model, and that thing has been really fun to shoot because I've always wanted an X5. There's just something about that gun. Now this is like the tactical version, so that's a gun I have been excited about. Obviously, yeah, I have a Nighthawk. I have a different Nighthawk on order. 2011s, 1911s are all cool, but other guns that I think. I'm trying to think. I don't want to leave anybody out, right? I kind of want to think about different price points and tiers. Some of the new stuff from Shadow, I wouldn't mind checking out because I really feel like those guys in the polymer striker space are doing some good stuff. They offer a lot of features for the money, and they're basically asking the market and looking at the aftermarket and figuring out how can we make this as a complete in the box solution. And you got to give props to Shadow for doing that. So kudos to them for doing that. Is it anything revolutionary? Nope, but it's kind of cool that it's all there. So I like that. Some of the new CZ stuff. I would love to get one of the new Shadow compacts. The platypus that we talked about. Yeah, so all that stuff. And then Ben, really from Bull Armory. Well, hey, Ben, shoot me an email. I would like to talk to you guys and check out some more of your guns and that kind of stuff. So Bull Armory, for those of you guys that don't know, Israeli-made double-stack 1911 style pistols. And the reviews on them are really good. I know there's a lot of the guys that I collaborate with, the Humble Marksman, Dave from the Humble Marksman. He's a super good dude. We've gotten to hang out together at a couple of events. He has really good things to say about the Bull Armory stuff. So, Ben, if you wouldn't mind, maybe we can connect and figure out a way that I can maybe check out one of your pistols or something. That'd be awesome. You can just email the QA at gunsandtactics.com or info@gunsandtactics.com would be great. But that'd be awesome. Thanks for checking in, man. I appreciate you checking in. Yeah, Nighthawk, Sandhawk's always on the bucket list. Absolutely. And the M&P 2.0, especially with, I have not tried the flat trigger. Every time I get an M&P, they feel good in the hand. The ergonomics is good, but I buy one, I shoot it for a little bit, and I end up selling it because honestly, like, I don't have a need for it. Like most of the agencies that I teach are either on like 2011 type guns or Glocks, maybe the occasional SIG. I don't know I can't remember the last time somebody had an M&P in their holster. So I just don't ever have a need for it. And then I always think about like, I'm just going to get rid of it. I'm at a point in my life where I'm actually trying to downsize a little bit, which is weird. Like everybody thinks like, oh, you got to acquire, like you see some of these YouTubers with like the walls of guns and all that stuff. I'm not that dude. And I'm kind of getting to the point where it's like, I haven't shot that in a year. Should I sell it? I haven't shot that in a year. Sell it. Haven't shot that in a year. And I know it's kind of weird, but I think I'm actually going to start downsizing. Weird, crazy, I know. But I look about the stuff and I start to realize that, yeah, there's money sitting there. And at this point, I'm really, and I know I'm trying not to get sappy with you guys, people that are still watching an hour in, which, now we have a high number, which is great. So listen to me here. This is my sappy middle-aged dad advice. I'm trying to invest more in memories now than I am stuff. I know that I'm not going to last forever. And I know that right now my kids are at an age where they still want to hang out with my wife and I. And I'm just trying to invest in as many memories as possible for them. Like I want them to be at our funerals, which hopefully it's not at the same time. And hopefully it's many, many decades. But I want the kids to be at our funeral remembering like, oh, you remember that one time when dad did this? Or remember that one time when dad did, like, even if it's a little bit scary, like, remember that one time we were in the side-by-side and we thought we were going to roll down the mountain? Like, I want more of those memories for my kids versus like, oh, now I got to deal with dad's 800 guns to sell, because I've had those calls too from the widow who was like, I have to deal with my husband's estate. I'm helping a widow now deal with her husband's 2 machine guns. So she has to deal with the NFA process of trying to figure out how to get these machine guns from the estate to her to sell. And they're a significant investment. So there's a lot of money tied up there. And she's like, I just want to move on. And, so like, there's some things to think about as well. So if any of you guys want some stuff, but that's kind of where I'm at. I think I would rather have a few quality items that I use all the time than a bunch of stuff that I don't, just because I'm not into the accumulating and collecting a bunch of stuff phase of my life anymore. So that's just kind of where I'm at. So hopefully that resonates with some of you guys and, is a little bit of advice. All right. Speaking of 2011s, the Battle of the Island style comp, gimmick or real deal? Okay. The Island style comp, obviously any comp can be effective versus like the porting that we have on some of the Island styles. So I'm assuming that's what you're talking about with like an Island barrel. Like if we have that Island behind the front sight and then we have the ports, I'm assuming if I'm misunderstanding your comment, clarify. Okay. But can it be effective? Absolutely. Can there be an effect on accuracy anytime you have that jacket dragging across edges on the barrel? Sure. I'm sure somebody would make that argument. Can you have velocity loss? Absolutely. But do they work? Yes, they do. Are there more effective platforms like the comp on like an XC or a Sandhawk or whatever? Yeah, probably. For me, out of all the 2011's comped guns that I've shot, I still think, and I wish I would have a more exotic answer, but the Staccato XC is still one of the flattest shooting guns out there. Is there flatter, more competition guns with huge comps and weights and all that? Yes, absolutely. I'm kind of talking within like the current tactical space of compensators or whatever. And I know that's even a little subjective because it is what it is. But the Staccato XC is a pretty flat shooting gun, is what it is. I look to compare it to a Nighthawk here pretty soon. And then the Voodoo has their porting. I ordered one of those guns. That's another gun I'm really looking forward to getting too, is their ported Priest. I love that Priest. That thing is just a smooth shooting pistol. So that would be another one that to loop back to that other question. But I would definitely look forward to that, and I kind of want to compare it because when I shot the ported Priest at SHOT Show, that thing shot flat as well, almost XC flat. Honestly, the Priest shoots flat enough on its own. It's a tuned, really, really good gun. So very, very happy there. But yeah, I do think they could. I don't think they're as much of a gimmick, but there's trade-offs, right? Red Wrath for ARs, straight or contoured gas tube. Well, the only time you're really going to use a straight gas tube is when you have a gas block that allows it. Like the rifle speed adjustable gas block sits up a little higher, therefore you need a straight tube and some of the other adjustables. Otherwise, pretty much every adjustable gas block out there, you're going to need a standard tube. So that's that. And then, yeah, man, I think so. And I hope that resonates with somebody, because if I could look back and give younger Dave some life advice, hey, accumulate a bunch of stuff or accumulate a bunch of memories. Man, I love my stuff. Don't get me wrong. Love my stuff. I am a gear nerd. But there's a part of me that maybe wishes I would have traveled a little bit more when I was younger. Maybe wishes I would have made some more memories, or done some stuff. So that's always tough, right? But I always thought of stuff, accumulation, larger collection would equal success. But here's what I've also learned. Success is very subjective. And I don't know about you guys, but I've been to a lot of funerals, and never once behind the hearse is there an armored car carrying all that stuff, right? So you can't take it with you anyway. All right, what about the Watchtower? The Watchtower felt way better at SHOT. I got to play with one of the first Apache, the PewView edition, and honestly, what kept me away was that 3D printed grip. Like, if you're going to spend that much money, come on, give me a better grip. So the grip was there, like the machining and everything seemed pretty nice. Now, there have been some people having issues with those early Watchtower guns, which again, anytime you have a new gun coming to the platform or a new gun coming out on that platform, you could have some teething issues. But I got to play with their new edition. Machining tolerances look good. The coatings look good, and they have upgraded the grip. They're using an MJD grip, which is an awesome grip company that makes really good grips for a lot of people in the industry. So I think that that's a better gun. I actually reached out to them after. I met with them at SHOT Show. I reached out. We exchanged the cards and all that. And I was supposed to be on their T&E list, but I should follow up and see whatever happened with that, because I would love to shoot one and put some rounds through it and see. Now, it is a lot of money. We're in custom gun territory. And for the money, is it worth the money? Because that's the thing. Like, I look at some of these other guns and I kind of wonder if it is all worth the coin. So, all right, we are caught up. We're caught up on comments, I should say. I don't know if there's any other urgent questions from the emails that I need to get to. I want to make sure we try to check in with everybody else. So this one is from Eric. Watched your video, should you co-witness a handgun? Yeah, we talked about that before, so that seemed to get there. Lower third co-witness direct mount EPS on a Glock 43. Here's what's cool. Is on a Glock 43, you can just mount the EPS, use standard sight heights. They're going to sit low enough or you'll be good to go. So 43X, standard height sights, good to go. And let's see here. Any other email questions? I just want to make sure we're getting through there. Okay, I think that is as much as I can get through for emails and comments, because we're at the hour and I actually do have to hop to another meeting. So before we wrap this up, do want to give a huge shout out to our sponsor, which is Global Ordnance. For those of you guys that don't know, I get all of my supplies, my Pew seeds from Global, and they want to help you out by giving you some stuff too. So we will have a link in the description that'll take you to our website, because due to community standards, we have to have that click wall. But Global Ordnance, they carry all the stuff that you know and love. Plus, I have a code that will give you free shipping for orders over a certain amount. And if you order over you will get free shipping, which is awesome. So order it by the case, order it heavy, doesn't matter. Use that code. You're going to get free shipping, which is can be a significant savings on case quantities. But they've got the brands that you like. They also do a lot of imported stuff that they're only going to be having, like the exclusive importers of like Ingman and Sterling. And dudes, it's good ammo. I've used the snot out of it. It's accurate. I thought I'd have a box. I don't even know if I can show a box because, the community standards, but good solid stuff. It performs really well, but they've got all the other brands that you know and love, and they are just in Florida, so they're pretty fast to ship for the majority of the country. So check out Global Ordnance. I couldn't do this without them. They supply all of the freedom seeds that I need to make my content trees grow. Oh man, how's that for a cliche? So anyways, let's throw up the rules here quick. A random comment, and it is Dustin. Random, yeah, the camera adds 200 feet. So, Dustin, next time we hang out, man, you're going to save me some shipping. I've got a prize for you, courtesy of our friends at Global Ordnance. So, Dustin, you are this month's winner. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Let's just make sure we're caught up on comments. It looks like you are, and it looks like our viewers just dropped because everybody knows that we're ending the show. So, with that, I thank you guys. If you guys have any questions, the best way to get your question on the show if you can't catch us live is to email us. That email address is shown on the screen, theqa@gunsandtactics.com. You can get this wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for watching. And as always, have a great day.